Growing up, my dad was a fisherman, so I always had access to really amazing food, and all my cousins are just so involved in the food community, so I always had that knowledge of how important that was. And I think it was only until my teen years when I lost that connection very deeply. And it wasn't until after when, I don't know who said it to me, but someone was talking about how food comes from the land. And for some reason, my brain just forgot that, and it forgot about that connection between land and food. And I was like, wow, I've always been so connected to land, but I didn't piece together that that is where my food comes from, and that's where I come from. And then I started to take my healing journey with looking at land relationships, and that was the way that I felt heard. And I felt like that was the land's way of telling me, I am hearing you and I'm supporting you, and I'm taking what you're saying, I'm taking this hurt and this pain, and I'm turning it into something that nourishes you.
My mom was from Italy, where food is very important. There's time involved with food, right? When she would make dinner for us, it was multiple courses and eaten over the span of 3 hours. It was how everybody related.
Food literacy is really about having a broad understanding of the skill, where your food comes from, the skills to prepare nutritious meals for yourself, and an understanding of kind of the overall food system that you're a part of. For us, when we use food literacy, it's very much so tied to gardening, to eating seasonally, to preparing and sharing meals, and making balanced recipes with what you have available.
CRFAIR and the different groups around the Greater Victoria area decided to get together and put together a video about food insecurity.
How I would define food insecurity is when people are worrying about meeting their basic food needs to feed themselves and their families.
Food security is justice work. There's two parts. There's not having access to food that actually supports your holistic well-being, and there's also not having the opportunity to connect with food and the cultural practices within that. People not having enough, not having access to, or relationship with. I think that a lot of the people that come into this work come into it because they have personal experience with it. And because we're sharing stories like this and we're able to share the personal side, it feels freeing.
I had back-to-back babies, and that was the start of everything. What happened was that I didn't qualify for another maternity leave because I didn't work enough hours in between my babies. My partner went into the hospital for 3 months, and then COVID hit. All of a sudden, we were like, how did we get here?
Since COVID, there has been a lot more people in need of the program. The reason why there is so much food insecurity is because of the simple fact that they don't have land to actually grow food on, which has been, a sustainable way to feed people throughout generations and generations. Something as simple as when you're in the grocery store, and as opposed to getting that fresh lettuce that costs $2.99, you get craft dinner that, sure, it will fill you up, but will it actually be nutritional?
I think really the stigma that surrounds food insecurity and living on low income, I think, folks don't want to be treated any differently. There's dignity and respect. It should be kind of regarded as a victory to be able to go out and connect with the support and resources that you need. A lot of the time there's a lot of complex shame and I think really trying to make things as low barrier and accessible as possible and just as easy as it can be to access the services that folks are looking for.
Hearing that there's a collective problem is so freeing and liberating. That's part of the destigmatizing, is really showing people that they're not alone in this.
And coming from that place of trust, when we invest in our community invests in itself. So.
Having those teaching moments of how to cook for themselves are so important. My oldest son went to Colquitt School and was a part of the farm to school lunch, and he loved that part where he learned how to cook, how they can take some lettuce or some kale out of a garden and then end up making a wonderful soup or a salad with it, and to be able to share it with everybody else. It was invaluable for middle schoolers.
I'm Laura Lynn Helton, and I'm at Colquitt Middle School. A teacher here for the last 26 years since it was a junior high. Growing your own food can really help with you having, local, healthy, available food for yourself.
I like it because we're outside, it's fresh air. We learned how to make our own food, from scratch. Find your own ways on how you like to do it.
We also do things with forestry and fisheries and water. We've got salmon eggs and worm bins and composting, and so they do a whole bunch of different sort of sustainability things.
What I love about the garden is that we're eating most likely the healthiest and nutritious food we can get.
And also, students, they can go get a healthy lunch and learn about healthy foods and stuff.
So we have enough food to go around. Since the prices are going up, it's going to be harder for people to access food security.
We talk about some food insecurity and everything, but it's a very serious thing and it should be taken seriously.
Thinking of a food future, one of the members in the Youth Food Justice Group said the other day in one of our meetings that really stood out to me. If we can't imagine what a new and alternative food system looks like, then we won't invest in one. The goal is to have connection to food on the 4 different levels of your well-being: a spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental. We're often living in a super rushed environment, trying to just get something in our bodies, and we're not really thinking about where it comes from, how we want to be with that food, the different practices that come with eating food or making food. We need to start really imagining and using our creativity to think about, what do we want this to really look like?
So I think that idea of collaboration and working with schools and businesses and community groups and other nonprofits is just kind of part of what we do. The more that we are working together and increasing awareness and collaborating between organizations, the better we're serving our shared community.
I needed to face my actual story, if that makes sense, and I feel stronger. It hasn't actually made me weak. It's made me stronger in that, okay, I'm a real person. These are my real feelings.
Belonging is not just including people and bringing them into a space, but making sure that they feel like their heart and spirit belongs there, and how can we make that happen?
If you're in need of food, we're here to help. So